Hey guys, okay, so I want to do something a little bit different today, which is to react to a live stream that took place recently. It was actually yesterday for me. I'm not sure when this is going to go up, but it was yesterday. There was a live stream and it was on Fresh and Fit, and it was Rollo Tomasi plus Michael Sartain, and they were debating Destiny and Sneeko. Now, I'm not going to go into the whole sort of background of this in too much detail. People may or may not already know, but basically, Rollo Tomasi did a tweet a couple of weeks ago where he had a list of things about a high-value man, what would make a high-value man. One of them, controversially, was get a vasectomy and avoid family creation. They were two of the points. A lot of people took issue with those points for various reasons. It ended up with Rollo getting into a bit of a backwards and forwards via a Zoom link or sort of via a StreamYard link on Fresh and Fit with Destiny and Sneeko. And there was a bit of an argument, a bit of kerfuffle. And so it was decided that they would all sit down in the studio together and have a general debate, firstly about this tweet and kind of what's meant by high-value man and what Rollo exactly meant by the vasectomy thing and so on and so forth. I'll put a link to the actual tweet below, or I'll stick it below so you can have a look. But this is where it all came from. So it was decided that they would have this sit-down conversation, which they did. Now, it was on last night, and it went on for about 4 hours. I'll put the link below. So it was very long and very involved. Now, in my occupation as a dating coach and somebody who's involved with all of this, I watched the whole damn thing, so you don't have to. And what I wanted to do was do a bit of a reaction, specifically to a few things that came up that I think are really useful to people on this channel, because they covered quite a lot of different issues. They talked about the high value thing. They talked about divorce. They talked about women's propensity for promiscuity, as well as men's propensity for promiscuity, how damaging both genders, etc. A lot of ground got covered, and it overall, as I say, it was a very civilized and fruitful debate. There wasn't really any ad hominem. It didn't descend into name calling or anything like that. It was, I think, very good and very productive. But as I say, there were specifically some elements regarding dating, and I think they're useful to pull out here, okay? And I'm going to tell you why now, because the problem, I think, with a lot of you guys is that you are just not taking action. I was talking to some of the guys in the Rule Zero chat earlier, and it's like 99.9% of the audience. They want the blood sports. They want to sit here and they want to watch debating, and they want to see what the fallout is, and they want to come onto the comment section or to the chat and be like, oh, he took an L, no, he took an L, blah, 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 and all of this nonsense. Do they actually want to go and talk to a woman in real life or not? Probably not, okay? Most people aren't taking action on this stuff, and that the only value in any of this stuff, really, is if you're going to use it in order to better your own life. So if you're single, that means going out and approaching. If you're in a relationship, that means how do you use this information to improve that relationship? Or if you're looking to get into a relationship, how do you use this information to do that best? Okay, so look, you've got to be taking action, and my concern is I don't think a lot of you basically are. In fact, I know a lot of you aren't, because I coach guys and I know what guys who I coach do, or rather don't do, and the kinds of excuses that they come up with. But without further ado, let's have a look at this, and I'm going to share the screen now. I'm going to have a little bit of a look about, or rather, we're going to have a little look at a segment of the conversation that took place yesterday. Okay, so we're going to listen to this. I want to make that a little bit bigger, I think. We want to listen to this and see what they said, and then I'm going to comment on it. Okay, so here we go.
Okay, people ask me, so I talk to a lot of women, I do my thing or whatever. When people ask me, like, what do you think is the best advice for, like, learning game? Okay, honest to God, the best advice is when you're, like, 12 to 18, having friends that are girls, talking to women, not being nervous.
Okay, so first off, he says, what's the best advice for learning game? And people will be sniggering now because, oh my God, you're asking Destiny, what's the best advice for learning game? But he's got blue hair, but he's bisexual, but he's in an open marriage and blah, blah, blah. None of that stuff fucking matters, man. None of that stuff matters, okay? All in these conversations is what's being said truthful or not? Is what's being said valuable or not, okay? Anyway, putting that to one side. So he gets asked, okay, so what is the best time to learn game? And he says, basically, between the ages of 12 and 18, if you had conversations, if you were hanging out with girls, right? If you have mates who are girls, friends who are girls, and you were engaging with those girls, that is the very best time to learn about these dynamics. Okay, now not all of us really have that luxury.
Around them dating in high school.
You're not gonna get any argument from this guy.
Okay, yeah, I don't know if you believe
Michael Sartain who is the notorious, club guy. He's runs VIP tables, VIP clubs and stuff in Vegas, always surrounded by beautiful women. He high fives Destiny in agreement with this. Okay, so if you've had these formative experiences between 12 and 18, then you're in a good place as far as game is concerned. Okay, because you understand the play at hand, you understand the necessary dynamics that take place between men and women, or between males and females. Okay, now, as I said, not all of us are that fortunate. Certainly between the ages of 12 and 18, I was pretty hopeless with girls. I had some female friends. I didn't really have girlfriends. I didn't have girlfriends at all between those ages. So myself, and maybe like people watching this, I was at a disadvantage. Okay, so then what do you do? So we get into it.
But honestly, that's the best time to do it. The second best time is now, right?
Okay, so he says the second best time to learn game is now. So if you didn't, between the ages of 12 and 18, learn about these dynamics, then the second best time is right now. Okay, and I think that makes a lot of sense to all of us. Okay, it's like, okay, you didn't do it before. Well, now is the time you need to do it, whether you're 35, whether you're 45, whether you're 55, right? Now is the time. Okay.
But if you're not starting early and you're 25 and you've never even been shot down by a girl before, that's literally the scary. You could get a guy to climb the Empire State Building before asking a girl out.
So immersion from women, being around women consistently.
Yeah, and those warm spaces where dating.
Yeah, so he's right, isn't he? He says basically, if you're at the age of 35 and you haven't even been shut down by a girl yet, you haven't even been rejected by a girl yet, then it's very, very hard for a guy in that position. Okay. Now, as I say, obviously, unfortunately, not all of us had the luxury of being able to, of being around a lot of girls at that point. I mean, I was at school. I was in a co-ed school. There were girls there. I wasn't particularly popular with them. I didn't really know how to engage with them. So for me, it was really difficult. And maybe it was the same with you as well. But let's have a look at what happens next, because obviously that's fine. But if you didn't have that advantage, then what do you do? Okay, and this really gets to the meat and drink of what I want to talk about here, because actually, let's have a look at that. Yeah, really getting to the meat and drink of what I want to talk about here, because basically, right, guys will often talk about looks. I'm just going to stop that. Actually, I'm just going to do another one. Guys will talk about looks, height, money, status, and all of these kinds of things. But what is it that really marks out? What is it that really marks out the guys who get good at this? Okay, and that's what we're going to have a look at now. So let's have a listen to this. Okay.
Relationship.
Sure, but even as like a,
he was hot and he was a hot guy in the foam can party.
Yeah, and I understand what you're saying there, but so for the largest survey that I could find, so in 2015 in evolutionary psychology, Frederick and Jenkins did a survey of over 60,000 people. Over half of them were men, and it had to do with the average number of sexual partners between all the men. And because I'm curious, I'm trying to find like, well, are there certain guys that like fuck all the women? Like, who are the?
So this is really interesting stuff, because as you can see from this, Destiny is obviously somebody who's very erudite when it comes to looking at studies and surveys and so on. Now, I think that can be to his detriment sometimes, because there are points when there's just observable reality. Okay, there's common sense, observable reality. This guy's good looking, therefore he's going to get more attention. Okay, and the problem with someone like Destiny is that if it's not backed up by a peer-reviewed study, then he discredits that as not being something that you can even put forward in a debate. Okay, which I think is problematic. However, what is useful about this and what's refreshing about this is he has really looked at the data. Okay, to try to figure out for himself, who is it who's getting all the success with women? What are the characteristics that these guys have?
Alphas or whatever. And two of the metrics that they tracked were height and BMI. So they had very short, average tall, very tall, and extremely tall guys. The biggest discrepancy, the extremely tall guys had 12.3 partners on average. And extremely tall was 6'5" and above. And the very short guys, 5'2" to 5'4", my short kings, their average partners was 9.4. That was the biggest discrepancy. At short, which is 5'5" to 5'7", you have 11 average partners. From 5'8" to 5'10", you've got 11.7. From 5'10" to 6'1", you've got 12. And then from 6'2" to 6'4", you've got 12.1. From 6'5" on, you've got 12.3. There's not like this huge discrepancy in terms of like who's getting all these partners. And
okay, so height and body mass index, which you would think would be these massive predictors of who's going to be getting the action. Okay, according to this study that he's citing, don't make a huge difference. They make a bit of a difference, but they're not making this huge difference that you might think, because you might think, okay, so the tall guy who's like 6'7" or 6'11" or whatever, he's going to be getting everything, and the guy who's 5'4" or whatever down here is going to be getting nothing. And actually, according to this survey, according to this study, that's not the case. There is some discrepancy, but there's not a huge discrepancy.
Same thing with BMI. For underweight people, it was 8.2 average. Normal weight, 10.9. Normal weight. Overweight was 12. Obese was 11.7. And then obese category 3 was 9.3.
I just don't know that necessarily describes Leonardo DiCaprio. Like
it's not, but I think there's a really good description for Leonardo DiCaprio. And this is what I kept trying to find. Who is getting all the women? And
okay, who is getting all the women?
And it's not a particular trait. It's not a particular thing. It's just guys that want to fuck a lot of women. Those are the guys that get a lot of women. It's not because they're necessarily tall or necessarily wealthy. And you guys must know somebody. I think we all probably know a guy who's a fucking bum who hits way above his pay grade because he's got a good smile. He's the pool boy, right?
Sure.
Arguably, he is the pool boy, because what does the pool boy have?
What's the guy?
Okay, so look, I think, and I was listening to this morning when I was kind of like just chilling out in the apartment, just sort of, 4 hours of this stuff. I mean, it's quite intense, to be honest. And I was quite tired when I finished. God knows what these guys felt like actually being in the studio. But I thought this was really, really interesting. I sat up when he said that, and I was like, yes, because this is exactly what I found in my own dating life. Okay, I speak as somebody who is not a Chad. I'm not hugely tall. I am okay looking, but I wouldn't say I'm more or less good looking. My figures, or my sort of weight and stuff's always been good, but that aside, and obviously I work out a bit and stuff now, but not having that obvious Chad type thing, but I've always batted above what you would assume my level to be. Okay, I've always punched above my weight, whatever other sporting analogy you want to use for this. Okay, why is that? Well, it's quite simply because I've put myself out there more than most other guys. Okay, and that's exactly what Destiny's saying here. He's saying that the indicator for guys who are successful in dating and mating is not actually the things that you think it is. It's not actually being super tall or being super good looking or anything else. It's simply, as he puts it, the guys who want to fuck. Okay, it is the guys who are putting themselves out there, who are seeking out opportunities in the dating marketplace, and who are making things happen for themselves. Those are the guys who are successful in this endeavor. Okay, and this, he's citing a study in order to back this up, and he's probably has some personal experience here as well. For myself, in terms of my anecdotal personal experience, I can absolutely attest to this. And the important thing for you guys, as far as this is concerned, is, look, the thing that is the equalizer, the thing that is going to even things up for you is going out there and taking action. Okay, it's going out there and putting yourself in the field in front of women that you are attracted to. Okay, I mean, it really is as simple as that. And I'm going to now bring something else in. So this really should be quite heartening for you, really, to hear this. But it's also, it also puts it onto you that you've got to do a bit of work. You've got to actually you've got to actually do something. And the problem, I think, is that a lot of guys, as I say, they're not really doing anything. Okay. Let me just see where the next bit is. Because I want to bring up another part now for you guys to have a look at. Yeah, so I think, right, let's have a look at this. Hold on. Let's have a look at this. I think this is right. Sorry, this is a bit fiddly, but let's have a go. Let's go.
Though, is the guy who can sleep with hundreds of women. I'm not saying they should, but I'm just saying that those guys who can, there's usually something that they do that is above and beyond. They are
true, and the thing that they do that's above and beyond is they go for women. That's the big separator, is whether or not you go after the women or not, right? Because again, when you look at the average heights and you look at the average partners, you're not finding that like all these women, it's like 15 average partners when you.
Okay, so the big differentiator, because Michael Sartain says, okay, so the guys who are very successful, all right, the guys who are sleeping with a lot of women, he says there must be something above and beyond about those guys. And Destiny says, yes, there is. And the thing that's above and beyond about those guys is that they put themselves out there. They go after the women. Okay. So again, it's very, very important to take notice of this, because what this is saying is basically the more times you go into bat, the more likely you are to be successful. And the guys who are doing that and doing that consistently are the guys who are getting the success. Okay. Now, Myron has also spoken to this frequently in terms of volume, basically, right? If you're in this, it's a bit of a numbers game. You've got to be putting in the volume. Myron from Fresh and Fit used to talk about how he would go to the club in Miami and he would talk to 40 girls or so before getting somebody to bring home with him for that evening. Okay, so this is really, really important stuff, and it's kind of refreshing, actually. I mean, I don't know what I was expecting from this debate, but I wasn't really, I don't think, expecting Destiny to sort of come out with some top tier game advice, but he kind of really has pulled it out of the bag here. Let's just see. I think there's one final bit now that I can share with you guys. Hold on. Here we go. Let's have a look at this.
Way before I ever got into online shit. But what I'm saying is the differentiator there. Like, I'm never ever going to fight you and say that being more attractive, having more money, having all that is going to hurt you. I'm never going to fight it. But what I'm telling you is the thing is wanting to fuck. That's the most. That differentiator is going to matter more than any other individual trait, and that's why when I ask you guys, do you have a study that shows otherwise? There's no study that shows otherwise. How about let's say this?
Okay, so pretty unequivocal, really. So he says, the key differentiator again is the desire to go and fuck. Okay, that's the key thing, and it's acting on that is going to make the difference. Let's just see what Michael Sartain says here, because I think he might be.
So here's where we're disagreeing.
Yeah.
So let's just say you say it matters more than anything else. I wouldn't say it's 50%. Let's just say it's 40%, and then looks, money, status each would equal 20%. That's just I'm just throwing out a theory out there. Okay. What you might say instead is the logistical thing is 60% or 70%.
Okay, so Michael Sartain then makes what you would think is quite a sane point, really, which is that yes, this is great. This persistence, is going out there and putting yourself in front of the women that you're attracted to. Great. But it also helps if you're attractive, and it also helps if you keep yourself in shape, and it also helps if you've got your money right and all those kinds of things. And I think, rationally, I think that must be the case. Okay. And this is where there was a little bit of sort of pushback from Destiny, because he was kind of saying, well, the studies don't show that. But I mean, I think really we can probably all agree that actually if a guy is good looking and he's going out there and being persistent, or at least if he takes care of himself, if he's in good shape, if he's well groomed, if he's dressed well, all these kinds of things, and he's putting himself out there consistently, he is, all other things being equal, he's going to be more successful in that endeavor than the guy who looks like a schlub who's sitting next to him. But Destiny, it kind of pushes back on that and says, well, no, it's simply about the persistence. Okay, so this is how important persistence is. Now, the other thing that Michael Sartain talks about in this video, and I don't have the clip up in front of me, but he talks about it a couple of times, is logistics. Okay, because what Michael Sartain says, and I agree with him here 100%, is I lived on the strip on Las Vegas, Michael Sartain. And it was being there in the heart of the action that gave him the opportunity to interact with a lot of women that he found attractive. And that's why his dating life became so prolific, or that was one of the reasons. He is a firm advocate for logistics. And this is something else that a lot of you guys forget about, or you don't really take into account, okay? Because I will often get guys who come to me for help, or they want to join a coaching program, or we do some consultation together, and they will sort of say, well, I'm living in this town, there's 3,000 people here, maybe I see I might see a new woman once every 4 weeks or something. It's just not good enough. It's just not good enough. And somebody challenged me on it a while back in the YouTube comments and said, well, what do I do if I live in this town? And I was like, well, mate, I'm a dating coach. I'm not a magician. Okay, I can't create women out of thin air. Okay, this is why people who take this part of their life seriously, they want to improve this part of their lives, they will move to Las Vegas. They will move to Miami. Okay, they will move to London in the UK. They will move to New York City. All right, they will go to places, and that's before we even get into the whole thing about, well, you can move to Colombia or you can move to Mexico, whatever. Okay. You need to move where the market is, all right? Logistics, as Michael Sartain says, super, super important. But on top of that, as Destiny says, the other thing that's really important is to be persistent and to put yourself consistently in front of the women that you find attractive. And that, for Destiny, and he says it very, very emphatically, and he's backed it up by, with the studies that he's citing here, that is the key differentiator, because nothing else really comes through as being a bigger differentiator than that, okay? The guys who get the most action are the guys who want to get intimate with women, okay? That's really what it comes down to. And as I say, for me, this really resonates with the story that I have, my hero's journey story, because I really, really, really wanted it. And that was not because of anything amazing about me. It was just because of this massive spike of testosterone or hormone or whatever it was when I was younger that just pushed me in that direction. And I suffered, yes, a lot of rejections and, a lot of things that didn't go particularly right. And I made a lot of mistakes and blah, blah, blah. But I did bat above, where you would expect me to be in the hierarchy, simply because I was doing more than most other guys around me. And most guys that I come into contact with through doing this job are doing less than they should be doing. Okay. So in summary, firstly, yes, looks, money, grooming, all that stuff. Look after yourself, get in the best shape possible, be as presentable as you possibly can, etc. Of course. Okay. Do that. Secondly, logistics are important. So if you're living in a crappy place where there isn't really a lot going on, there's not a lot of action, okay, then you need to seriously consider, A, do I move? Or B, can I at least go on vacation to somewhere where there's a bit more going on? Or can I commute, or can I work remotely? You need to solve this logistical problem. And even then, when you're within the city, really, you want to live in a place that's logistically relevant. Okay, so somewhere like whenever we travel to a foreign city, we tend to stay on the street where all the bars are. Okay, because that way, if you go for a date, then you're living very near to where you're likely to go on that date. But then the final thing, and the most important thing, is just put yourself out there. Put yourself out there time and time again, because that is the key differentiator. Okay, and even people coming from very different spaces on this. So you've got Destiny, the blue-haired alternative, leftist kind of Twitch streamer, saying this. You've got Myron Gaines saying this. And you've even got Dr. Silk, my compatriot, the conversation king, Dr. Silk, saying the same thing. Even Dr. Silk, with all his expertise in communication skills, says exactly the same thing. You need to be talking to a lot of women consistently in order to be successful in this endeavor. And that is the key thing that's going to mark you out. So I hope you found this helpful. I hope you found this content useful. Let me know. Give me a like. Give me a comment below. If you want to grab my collection of 11 books about all of this stuff, you can absolutely do that. It's called Renegade Dating Blueprint. There is a link below. And if you want to get on a call with me for free to talk about your dating situation and, maybe how we can help, or do a little bit of tweaking or a bit of coaching here and there in order to get you where you need to be, you can do that as well. My Calendly link is below. So thank you very much for tuning in, and I'll see you again very soon. Bye-bye.